What up, fellow Batman the Animated Series fans? You're in for a treat today. There's been a stealth BTAS spinoff out in the world for 25 years now, but you'd probably never guess it was created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. I describe it as Batman the Animated Series minus everything Batman and plus all the zaniness of the Earthworm Jim series.
Without my suit, I'm a helpless worm fighting impossible odds to save the universe! Groovy.
It was also developed by Steven Spielburg. Yep, everyone's favorite director who's never made a superhero movie for some reason. Oh, unless you count Warhorse. But Spielberg did make a TV show about a superhero. It was random, it was hilarious, and it had a super catchy opening theme song with a groovy jazz bass.
Super team extraordinaire, Freakazoid, Freakazoid.
I don't know why, but the title coming out of his ass was always hilarious to me and definitely set the tone for the show.
Oh, Freako!
Damn right, my boy Freakazoid. I love Freakazoid, the show and the song. That's the most hilariously 80s song ever, and Freakazoid was the most hilarious Batman the Animated Series spin-off ever. How is it a spin-off? I'll get to that later. But the original take was much more grounded than a superhero whose sidekick is his own hand.
I wouldn't let you down, Freaky Bazaar!
The randomness of bits like that are worth the rewatch.
Hey, stop!
Freakazoid was incredibly experimental, featuring characters who regularly commented on the story,
It's the waiting around that kills me.
addressed network censors, and broke the fourth wall.
Wow, that was a long wait. This is more story than I'm used to.
It was off the wall, unpredictable, and just so random in the best way possible. When you think about it, it was Adult Swim before Adult Swim, which is maybe why kids really didn't get it. But older kids did and loved it. Which is why it got canceled. Yep, it got canceled because of you, teenagers / adults in the mid-90s. And I'll tell you why in everything you didn't know about Freakazoid.
Freakazoid.
Freakazoid is one of the oldest shows on Kids WB, debuting the same year that Kids WB launched in 1995. Yet, Warner Bros. Had been making cartoons for other networks for a while, including Batman the Animated Series for Fox Kids in 1992, and Freakazoid never would have happened had it not been for BTAS. You can see its influence on Freakazoid very, very subtly.
Only one hero has the heart to fight this fiend. That hero is on another network.
Or not that subtle. The idea seems impossible, but it's true according to the voice of Freakazoid and story editor Paul Rugg.
The show had been sort of developed by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm as sort of an edgy superhero show. Imagine Batman with some laughs, but really at its core, it was very superhero-ish.
Rugg was originally just a writer on the show who then landed the voice job later. He can also be seen here pitching a story ending to Steven Spielberg.
We can end the show early and show some more Animaniacs reruns.
Right. Let's do it.
When Kids WB launched, they needed a bunch of new shows to fill time. So they spun off Pinky and the Brain from Animaniacs and tried developing Freakazoid from the creators of Batman the Animated Series. Freakazoid's look was somewhat based on a Bruce Timm character design called the Creeper, a villain who later appeared in the new Batman Adventures with a similar personality.
I am the Creeper!
Paul Dini and Bruce Timm developed Freakazoid, intending it to be an action show first and parody second, where Freakazoid, the hero, actually tormented the sympathetic villains, which totally still happens in the show all the time. Yeah, I do that to my wife all the time when she's mad at me.
You're not liking any of this, are you?
When they pitched the show to Spielberg, he wanted to flip it, focusing mostly on comedy, which is how you get stuff like Legends Who Lunch.
The Legends Who Lunch.
I love that bit so much that I'm just gonna steal it. This isn't funny, I'm just hungry. We had another recurring bit planned, but now we're just doing this. Sorry.
And now, back to our story.
Now, having unrelated vignettes like that is straight from Animaniacs.
One time, Randy Beeman's aunt was sitting on the front porch, and she was in her bare feet.
And a huge departure from Bruce Timm's original vision, which was probably more like this.
Greetings, worthless viewers.
Minus the worthless viewing part. According to Bruce Timm, and I quote, "Every time we'd have a meeting with Steven, the concept would kind of change, and it kept leaning more and more towards zany comedy. it really started out almost like Spider-Man on that level of a teenage superhero, and it reached a point where it became a comedy with the Tiny Toons / Animaniacs kind of humor, end quote. And the actual Animaniacs.
It's time for Freakazoid and Friends, where the insanity never ends.
After Bruce Timm left during development, Tom Ruegger, who ran Animaniacs, took over and really let the freak out.
Zoids! I look like Oprah Winfrey!
The only remnants of the original pitch were the character designs, which were mostly all Bruce Timm's, which makes sense when you look at someone like Candlejack.
Hello, boys.
Whose design is super creepy and could easily fit in on a BTAS style show. Reminds you of Scarecrow a little bit, no?
Why, thank you.
They also kept the superhero parody aspect of Freakazoid, riffing off on common comic book tropes and classic TV shows like the Adam West Batman show. They even transitioned scenes the same way. Otherwise, everything else ended up way more like Animaniacs. Toby Danger, for example, was a one-off segment in one episode that was originally meant for Animaniacs, but added here to fill time. It's dope because it was kind of Venture Brothers before Venture Brothers. What's cool is they brought back the original voice of Benton Quest, Don Messick, to voice Vernon Danger.
Maybe someday you'll be a scientist, just like me.
And Scott Menville, who played Toby Danger, also played Johnny Quest in the 80s.
Dad, this is Johnny. Come in.
It's a spot-on parody of Johnny Quest, which fit in on a show that was wall-to-wall parodies of everything from commercials.
New this season, it's the Freakmobile, now with this nifty boot-kicking attachment.
To Seinfeld.
Come on, Kramer, give me the donut. Never.
The key to the whole show is Newman.
Alright, he's not wrong. As you can see, the parodies are pretty random. Nothing's off limits. It's like Tim and Eric on LSD random. And that's random. They would even reference the actors' names regularly.
And then you've got Eddie Asner, a bear of a man, a huggable guy. I kiss him.
There was old-timey stock footage for no apparent reason.
We interrupt this tender moment to bring you the following exciting action-packed sequence.
Even obscure celebrity references like Jack Valenti, the head of the MPAA and inventor of the film rating system.
Hello, I'm Jack Valenti, and these are my cheeks.
He actually appeared as himself because he was friends with Spielberg. Oh, and they murdered network censors.
Hello,
like legit. Boom.
I quit.
They also took random trips to something called Spumoniland.
Wanna go to Spumoniland?
Sounds like a deli. And just admitted when they ran out of content.
We don't have any clips to show from the next episode of Freakazoid.
Freakazoid was like Animaniacs on steroids, plus HGH, plus Bane Juice.
My super soldier serum.
Venom. And the tone was also super rando. Sometimes it was very blunt and adult.
You spend far too much time with your computer. It's not healthy.
It's my life.
That's so very, very sad.
And other times it was loving and heartfelt.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message. I love you.
They'd also do unpredictable things all the time, like broadcast a show in Screamovision.
Let's try it now.
Scream.
Good.
Who's that for? All those references and random gags ended up being over kids' heads, like the Gallagher parody. Which reminds us of the best Gallagher parody ever. It was over everybody's head, really, according to Paul Rugg. And I quote, "Whenever we tried to explain the show to somebody, we were faced with a really blank stare. People had no idea what we were talking about, and we had no idea what to tell them." End quote. Yeah, no kidding.
I now pronounce you married hands. You may kiss the bride.
Okay, that's definitely for kids. But their honeymoon sure as wasn't. And it just got wackier as you learn more about the characters, like Freakazoid, whose powers are pretty conventional. You know, super strength, super speed, reflexes, and super long spit takes. And then his weaknesses are hilariously specific.
So, graphite bars charged with negative ions. That is your weakness, huh?
Or super disgusting.
That or poo gas.
He's also allergic to cranapple.
I'm allergic to cranapple.
But, and again, who who isn't.
Now, if you'll excuse me.
His main weakness is not being very bright.
Dumb! Never tell the villain how to trap you in a cage!
Also, a fun satirical thread is that Freakazoid doesn't really use his powers in a lot of his fights. Most of the time, he beats his villains by driving them nuts or making them do silly
Howdy, partner! What is this? Hee-haw! Stop it! Fight normal!
Now, while the design of Freakazoid was inspired by the Creeper, his personality was inspired by Mike Allred's Madman comics, another zany, off-the-wall superhero from the 90s with an exclamation point as his logo. According to Allred, Bruce Timm gave him the heads up, and I quote, "Bruce Timm was kind enough to tell me that Madman was a direct inspiration for the show, with comics open and referred to when developing the show," end quote, which I think is a solid move by Bruce. Bruce, if you're watching, would love to get some more insight on this whole exchange. Allred would go on to say he was flattered at first, but then slightly got annoyed when he wasn't given any credit or compensation. He decided not to sue or cause any ripples as he felt everyone draws inspiration from different places. And I quote, "Nothing is completely original in and of itself. It's the recipe, the combination of ingredients is what makes something original. Maybe they use too many of my ingredients, maybe not. Other than Frankenstein, no one has recognized Madman's direct influences, but I've always been happy to share what they are," end quote. See, now I give him props not only for choosing to be positive about the whole thing, but for writing a letter to Spielberg himself, letting him know that his production was a direct lift of Madman and that he was aware.
Kitty!
Also, an interesting wrinkle is that Freakazoid is different than Dexter Douglas, his teenage alter ego.
Hey, Dexter!
Freakazoid seemingly lives inside of Dexter Douglas and only comes out when Dexter yells, "Freak out!"
You down here! Surprise!
I'm just glad he didn't pop out any lower. I mean, Dexter became Freakazoid when he accidentally went inside his computer and absorbed the entire internet. Good thing it's the 90s internet and not today's, because otherwise he'd be called Brasper's Man. The cool thing is that the bug that turns him into a hero is a parody of the FDIV bug that was real around the time and infected Intel Pentium chips in the early 90s. Though that bug could not be accidentally activated by a cat.
What's this junk?
Freakazoid has a girlfriend, Steph, who was Dexter's crush in high school. She's not very developed in the first season and is more of a plot device who falls into comic tropes.
No way, Buster. You're still coming shopping with me.
Fans theorized that she would become a character known as Freakazette, who was mentioned in the song Freakazoid and Friends in the first episode.
And don't forget there's Freakazette's a lovely shade of blue.
We found that reportedly the writers planned on introducing Freakazette in a later episode called Enter Freakazette, but it never happened due to the cancellation, which makes me so angry that I just want to freak out! That's all that happens. I grow hair and it goes straight up. Also, I'm now allergic to poo gas.
Nobody likes poo gas, my friend. Blech.
Then there's Freakazoid's police friend, Cosgrove. He was played by the incredible Ed Asner, whose gruff, deadpan delivery makes his nonsensical dialogue extra funny.
Hey, Cosgrove, what do you think I should get Steph for Christmas?
Get her something a girl would want, like banjo lessons or a new turban.
Also, he can make all villains stop being bad just by telling them.
Anyone who tries to make a break for it's gonna be in big trouble. Got it?
I wish that worked on my kid.
You want a timeout?
No. Roddy McStew is an irate Scotsman who mentors Freakazoid. He's a computer mastermind voiced by Craig Ferguson and mostly yells his lines.
I've got to talk and fiddle with the computer and talk some more and fiddle and talk. I feel like Obi-Wan Gruddy Kenobi.
Professor Jones is his butler who's inspired by Jonathan Harris from Lost in Space.
It's all your fault, you computerized cunt!
He's also voiced by Jonathan Harris.
Weren't you on a show with a robot?
Mind your own beeswax.
But Ingmar is his real butler and only ever appears in the Freakalair. He provides Freakazoid with all his gadgets. Also, he's mute, which Freakazoid loves pointing out.
He's mute, you know.
Which is kind of foul. The announcer, Joe Leahy, interrupts the program for random gags all the time.
If we knew where he was gonna hit next, we could trap him.
I know! He's gonna hit the power station tonight!
Joe, you're the announcer. You're not supposed to give away plot points.
And he's also the narrator who fills in exposition.
Meanwhile, as poor Freakazoid strained, grunted, and groaned in his feeble attempt to change back into mild-mannered Dexter Douglas.
Then there's my favorite character, Emmett Nervin, who just stares at the camera and never says a word. He was based on a drawing by Mitch Schauer, who later went on to co-create The Angry Beavers. The showrunners loved the sketch so much they put him in as much as they could. But the best part about the show is the villains are all cool. His main villain is Gutierrez, voiced by Ricardo Montalban, whose weakness is being called a weenie.
Don't say the weenie word.
And of course, they reference the fact that he played Khan.
Revenge is a dish that is best served cold.
A ton.
Revenge is a dish best served with pinto beans and muffins.
Then there's the creepiest villain, Candle Jack, who's genuinely creepy and inspired an early internet meme, where you type out a sentence and then stop it midway, implying that you'd been kidnapped by...
Don't say it!
Nah, I'm still here. He didn't want me.
Care to join us?
Another villain I love is Lo, who some would consider Freakazoid's main villain and who was voiced by David Warner. He's super smart and had his own musical number in the episode Dexter's Date that was legit, no kidding, 4 minutes long.
Lodi, oui, bonjour. Lodi, we're so pleased that you've come back. We have to scream. Ah!
But Cave Guy had the best theme song, hands down. Cobra Queen, who was voiced by the incredible Tress MacNeille, might be his girlfriend, which means she has very questionable taste in guys. The dude doesn't even wear a shirt to dinner.
You know, Audrey, I only come here after special robberies.
How sweet of you to say.
The alien, Moran, is said to have been inspired by Roman, a bee monster from the 1953 film Robot Monster. The funny part is that he appears first as Moron here.
I am Moron.
Very accurate name. But the name had to be changed later to Boron because reportedly the censors deemed his name too offensive. Which is funny that they wanted to change that, but not Fat Man and Boy Blubber? That would never fly today.
Boy Blubber and Fat Man.
And that barely even covers the incredible side characters who pop up, like everybody's favorite bear strangler, the Huntsman.
Hunt, 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 he's the huntsman.
Lord Bravery, whose real name is Nigel Skungthorpe.
My real name is Lord Bravery.
He was voiced by Jeff Bennett, aka Brooklyn from Gargoyles.
I'll lead the best I can.
We also can't forget Foamy the Freak Dog.
Shake hands, Foamy.
Leonard Maltin.
You know, many consider the island of Dr. Mystico one of the most pointless Freakazoid adventures ever made.
Or Dr. Mystico, played by Tim Curry, who gets to go full ham.
They barred me from the universities until I had no choice but to flee here and conduct my research. Well, who's crazy now,
It all still makes me laugh today. And that was the problem. See, the ratings for Freakazoid were great for older audiences. Kids just didn't tune in. So even though they were selling airtime, toy companies and marketing execs were down on the show because it wasn't delivering the target demo. They just couldn't market stuff like prolonged musical interludes. In an attempt to salvage the show and potentially move it to primetime, the showrunners streamlined the second season by getting rid of random interstitials and the 2 stories per episode setup from the first season, making episodes 22-minute stories about Freakazoid that would air later in the day for older kids alongside Pinky and the Brain, who actually did finally rule the world by becoming president on this show.
The situation is critical, Mr. President. Fuel's low and the pilot just bailed.
How distressing.
But didn't work, and the show did get canceled.
No!
And they knew it, pending the finale that was actually quite touching.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when.
So you see, it was your fault for loving this show too much, but really it's not, because the real problem was that it was way too ahead of its time.
Thank you.
Wouldn't it fit in perfectly alongside like Rick and Morty or anything on Adult Swim? I think so. And if you don't agree with me, then I'll just freak out. Oh, I guess I get the red shirt now when I say that. There are so many great episodes that totally hold up today. Like the episode Dance of Doom, which Paul Rudd improvised much of in the recording booth. He stated, "I kind of went off, and much to my surprise, they animated it. And you can totally tell."
Stop the singing now, and the singing song. Stop, go. Enough with the song. Stop. Bring it down. Calm down. Stop. Shh.
Another favorite is Freakazoid in History, when Freakazoid goes back in time and prevents World War II by stopping Pearl Harbor.
Now listen up. I want one line right here. We're checking for fruits, vegetables, and torpedoes.
Oh, and Relaxovision, which features action fights so violent that they had to be replaced by calming shots of stock footage. Freakazoid only lasted 2 seasons and ran for 24 episodes, and while it may not have worked for children like the network desired, it stands the test of time and holds up so well because it threw absolutely everything at the wall, meaning some of it had to stick.
Do you think we've said poo gas enough?
And if you miss it like I do, you can scroll through the show looking for Easter eggs. There are a ton. Like the reoccurring end credit gag where they list Weena Mercator as the hopping woman, even though she never appears. They stuffed this show full of gags, like how Dexter's dad's name is Douglas Douglas.
Are there any pizza rolls left?
Your mother ate them all 24.
There's even a reference to Floyd the Barber from the Andy Griffith Show in the opening credits. No wonder so many people love Freakazoid, including popular gamer Ryan Abadir, who named himself after the show, as well as critics who gave the show a Daytime Emmy in 1995. Alright, this show needs a revival because it makes me really mad this show is gone. So mad, I'm gonna once again freak out! Sweet. Maybe now I have his powers like super strength. Oh, or maybe super spit take, which actually no, that's kind of gross. Freaking! What was your favorite gag? Let us know in the comments.
All right, folks, that's all we have time for today. We have to run, so next time, don't forget to freak out.
Thanks for watching. For more everything to know, make sure you click over there. And for new episodes that drop every other week, click over there. I don't want anything.